beautiful people. My name is Kristen. Thank you for stopping by my channel, Enter the Book. Today I have a book haul, which I probably shouldn't be doing book hauls because I have so many books on my TBR stack that I've been trying to get down. But I had a huge stack that I was ready to take into the used bookstore, and they do a very generous credit back. And so almost most of these are from a used bookstore, and they were completely credit. There are two that were new. I always buy one new one because I like to support the business of the used bookstore, so I always buy one new one and then use my credit for the rest. And then I got into a lovely discussion with the cashier who did a lot of English and literature studies in college, and she had gone through my books for the credit and kind of knew my taste. And she said, hey, based on what you know, the bag of books you brought in, can I recommend a book? So I ended up buying two new books because she didn't have that one used. But I'm going to share them with you. So I did buy 3 books off of my Amazon that were used because they went on sale really cheaply used, and they had been on my wish list the longest, like back from 2020. So those books were Race Against Time, a reporter reopens the unsolved murder cases of the civil rights era. And I realized after I had checked out that once I buy it off my wish list, it disappears from my wish list. And on the wish list, I had started putting in the comments who recommended each book to me. And all of these were recommended off of a booktube, or somebody recommended them to me. And now I don't know who it was. So if you've reviewed this, I probably got this from you. So anyway, this just sounded like such an important piece of work that we should know about. And I don't remember exactly when, well, I know when I put it on my list. That was back in 2020, as well as this one, The Nickel Boys. And I know I've seen 2 or 3 different people talking about that. Since then, Brian at Bookish just did a discussion about the Underground Railroad, and so I had asked him if I needed to read that one first because I knew this one was on my wish list, and I had actually already ordered it. It's like one of those, you know, weird kind of fate things, like I should read this sooner than later because coincidences keep bringing something up. Anyway, I look forward to reading this. A black boy growing up in the 1960s in Tallahassee is unfairly sentenced to a juvenile reformatory called the Nickel Academy. He's trapped in a grotesque chamber of horrors. So I don't know if this is based on, yes, based on the real story. I was pretty sure it was based on a true story. So again, you know, important works of literature that obviously are well written. Somebody's recommending them, talking about them. I want to do it. And then the last one I got that I thought would be helpful was an anxiety workbook for teens. I work with teens, and this had gotten a lot of good reviews, and I had heard somebody talking about it. And it's fine that it's used because I just want to pull maybe some of the exercises or examples, because let's be honest, in today's, well, let's be even more honest. I was going to say in today's day and age, we're all filled with anxiety, but I think that's true no matter what. We are humans. We struggle and have emotions and are faulty and broken, and there's always going to be anxiety, and we can always use a little help from that. So anyway, I'm going to look through that. I don't know that that's the kind of book I'll read cover to cover. Maybe. We'll see. But I definitely wanted to pull some exercises from that. Then, at the used bookstore, so again, I think I ended up spending like $40, $42, something like that for the 2 new books, and all the others were credits. So I got a huge stack. Passing by Nella Larson, and it was in the classic. There's a lot of classics that I pick up that I know are familiar to me. I've heard of them, so therefore I want to read them. But really, I kind of like going in blind and not really knowing what it's about. This was published in 1929, a remarkable candid exploration of shifting racial and sexual boundaries. And it's a short little book, so I thought, you know, it is kind of interesting though, like what they'll say is scandalous or whatever in the 1920s, and then you read it and go, oh. I did find a copy of Kindred, and I'm not sure. This isn't the normal cover I see. Is this a movie, or is this the UK version? I mean, this is not the normal cover that I normally see, so I almost didn't recognize it. But um, this this is Octavia Butler. So this is the story. Woman time travels, goes back, not intentionally, but gets sucked into modern day and going back and trying to speak up for, I think, a specific black boy who is being abused or something of that nature. Anyway, it's got lots of good reviews and lots of chatter. And then I found a copy of Emily Griffin's The Lies That Bind. So I have read Emily Griffin's Something Borrowed and Something Blue, and they were okay. They were like 3 stars. I think one of them was 2.5 stars. I mean, it was just kind of fine. But this book sounded like it was actually good. There was like a little more mystery, like a missing person, or like a little more thriller-esque kind of thing. And I thought, I'm going to give it one more chance. I've done 2 that were just kind of okay. If this one doesn't wow me, I am not going to read any more of her books. But yeah, if you've read that book or know anything about it, want to give a plug for it, I'll take it. I've got a really big stack, so now I've got to start reaching down. Look what I found. A Gentleman in Moscow. So I have not read any Immortals books, including his new one, the Lincoln Highway, which I almost got for my book of the month, but there was some other book that I decided I wanted to pick up instead. I still need to read that one, but I've never even read this one. So it was at the used bookstore. I picked it up. And then, if you were watching my Try a Chapter and Spin, I had the After Room, which is the 3rd in a trilogy of middle grade, and this is the 2nd in the trilogy. They didn't have the first there, but I found it on eBay with shipping for like $5.50, so I went ahead and ordered the one off eBay for the book number 1. This is book number 2, and this is a story of children who are on a quest, basically, to save the planet, to save the world, but it starts out in the first one that there's a magic pharmacist who makes a formula that they get turned into whatever bird, their inner bird self, and they kind of go on these grand adventures, and it's super clever. I mean, it sounds really basic, but it was super clever, super enjoyable, funny dialogue that I believed kids actually might say. So anyway, I look forward to reading the rest of the series because I really enjoyed the 3rd one. I also found a copy of The Handmaid's Tale, Margaret Atwood. There was even a Margaret Atwood tag that I believe I even did that tag, but I've never read a single Margaret Atwood. So I feel like this is the book that gets talked about the most. Not sure with my religious upbringing and background how I'm going to feel with it, but that'll be interesting, won't it? So at some point I will be reading that. Keeping with classics, they had a really great classic section. I got Olympus the King, Sophocles. I had to think about how to Sophocles, Olympus the King. I had to think about how to say his name for a second. It's like, yes. So this is obviously a classic. I think it might even count as an Ancients for next June, but it's a thin little classic that was really affordable, especially when you're using credit to buy it. And I got another Thomas Hardy, Desperate Remedies. I have not read this one of his yet, and it is a mother-daughter family. I think. Cynthia Gray takes a job as a lady's maid and discovers that her new mistress was the woman her father had loved so desperately, who broke his heart by running away from him. And then it talks about her romance as well. So not a mother-daughter. I read I Know Why the Cage Bird Sings in January, and here are 2 more, because I had never read Maya Angelou. These are basically like an autobiography. She's talking about she's not saying her own name, but basically she goes through the different stages of her life, sharing things that she was eyewitnessed or felt or grew up or whatever. So look forward to reading and discovering more because I really enjoyed the first one. Then I found this book that I just thought was really lovely that was in the fantasy category, and I've never heard of Sean Russell or Sea Without a Shore, but I just thought this was a beautiful book. And then the back of it said, Secrets of the Mages has been lost with the passing of Imerus Flattery, a man of talent who had served the last known mage. It seemed to be the dawn of a new era, a time of reason, science, and exploration, and Tristram Flattery, his nephew, was one of its most promising young naturalists. And so basically, he's like this forester, nature preserver, earthbound explorer that is dealing in a land of magic that is losing its magic. And I don't know, it may be too political, or it may be too dense, or maybe too whatever, but I thought it was really cool, and it worked out to like, I think $1.50 I paid for this, and I just thought it was beautiful, beautiful illustrations and books, and I was just gonna do it, because again, credit. Last used one I picked up was Jennifer Weiner's Mrs. Everything, and I don't know really anything about this one. It says Joe and Bethy were born in a world full of promise. They grew up in the 1950s in Detroit. They lived in a perfect Dick and Jane house where the roles in the family were clearly defined. Joe was the tomboy and the bookish rebel with the passion to make the world more fair, while Bethy was pretty, feminine, good girl and a would-be star who enjoyed the power of beauty. But the truth ends up looking different from what the girls imagined as they survive traumas and tragedies, and their life unfolds against the background of free love, Vietnam, Woodstock, women's lib, and they become the adventure-loving wild child who dives headlong into the counterculture. So this book was in, like, each staff person had like a tag in the used bookstore, so there was a shelf that said staff recommendations or picks, and then each staff person had a stack of books that they would pull off the shelves and say, we love these books. So one of the stacks had a stack, I should have taken a picture, but it had a stack of 7 books, and I had already read like 5 of those 7 books, and I agreed that all 5 of those were at least 4-star books. And so the other 2 books that were in the stack, I said, I'm going to get one of those books. So that's this book. So I think that's a fun experiment, right? Then the book that I had picked up as my new book that I was going to do to support was another Sally Hepworth. I had read Mother-in-Law based on my good friend Michelle at Books Cause Insomnia. She had recommended Mother-in-Law, and I really liked it. So this is another one, The Good Sister. Lots of family drama, and there's always a whodunit plot. And this one I think has to do with, she's a librarian. So how can you go wrong with that? I already like the author and the writing and family drama, and there's a librarian. So that was that pick. And then the one that the cashier had recommended and said, based on the books that you brought back and, read, I recommend this. It basically has, she said it's historical fiction, but it's like a fantasy, has a little magical, little voodoo. It's kind of Haitian folklore, but actual history that's then put into a mystical realm of fictitious journey and quest. And it just, the way she just described it made it sound like, check, check, check. I like all these kind of elements, all these kind of things. And it sounds like I get to learn something, because I honestly don't know. I mean, besides the earthquakes in Haiti and the relief sent there and the extreme poverty, because I have actually been on a missions in Haiti. So besides that side of Haiti, I don't know much. So I think this is going to be super good. It's a pretty thick book, but I really look forward to reading it. So this one, I don't know when I'm going to get to it, but I'm going to pop that into my TBR stack sometime soon. So that's it. What do y'all think? That was a lot of books that I got for basically turning in books, and then, a couple of new books to support the store. If you've read any of these and think I should bump them up on my TBR, please let me know. Or if you are particularly interested now in looking into any of them based on me just talking about them, put that down there too, because I'm always trying to juggle what order I'm going to read my very large and very growing to-be-read pile. But I appreciate you stopping by and checking it out with me. It's exciting to share new books, to share reading, and if you had already done any of these reviews on your channel, let me know that, because I want to go back and watch and refresh myself. Thanks, y'all. Take care. Y'all have a great day.